All right, so I want to talk about an aspect of moral calculation where people a lot of times are dishonest with. All right, so here's the thing: when you're talking about moral calculation, and this can apply to decisions of wisdom, political decisions, things of that nature. This can apply to all that. Um, but when you're talking about these things, you're talking about. Here's the thing: you're talking. You want to talk about the, for one. So when you're talking about choosing an option, you got to talk about A, the other options that are available, and B, what is the standard. And when you're talking about what is the standard the ideal standard you're trying to live up to, you know, it's just like, okay, this is the ideal, but then it's why is this the ideal as opposed to, you can get into why is this the ideal as opposed to this other thing. But anyways, assume, because that can be an argument. But here's the thing: sometimes when people are talking about the options that are available, I mean, when they're criticizing an option, they don't normally, a lot of times they leave out the other options that are available. They don't talk about them. They just talk about how bad your option is or such and such. And this can be very dishonest when the other options are a lot worse. So say, for example, you picked an option that you was going to, and that option, like every option you're going to lose money, but the one with the minimum loss was $5,000, right? So let's say just a person who's kind of an ignoramus or doesn't really know about the situation is criticizing you for losing $5,000, but the other options, who's going to lose like 5 million and 5 billion or whatever. If they're ignoring the fact that these other options you're going to lose a lot more money, then they're kind of being disingenuous. Yeah, what's ideal is you not to lose any money at all, but gain maximum amount of money. But at the same time, those weren't the options that were available, and we have to deal with the options that are available. Like this is what they mean by the road to hell is paved with good intentions, because a lot of times they will, in seeking perfection, they'll destroy everything. Meaning, like, you have a good option that has low risk, that has a high probability of of making it, but you'll seek something that is quote unquote perfect, which has hardly any chance of coming to pass, and then you'll ruin everything because of that one ideal option, which is messed up. But here's an example of, which is what a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people do with socialism, but that's a whole other thing. But I'm talking about, like, yeah, well, anyways. So anyways, you have, like, let me just give you a real life example. Say for, like, there's a movie called Machine Gun Preacher where there's this guy who had to save these young children. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna get into him, but anyways, there was these warlords that were like offing the men in the village, and then they would leave the boys the boys and the females, right? So that's the reason why I say females, because it wouldn't be just women, but it'd be women and young girls. It'll be all the women. It'll be all the female. It'll be all of the female gender, right? So, but of the male gender, they'll just leave the boys. So they'll tell the boys, like, look, you can either off the women and the females in your family, or we're going to violate them. And when I say violate them, I mean SA in the worst way. We're going to violate them, and then we're going to off. So the boys, left with not many options, they off the females. Now, somebody who wants to just criticize the boys will be like, well, these boys are mad for offing the females, but then they're ignoring the situation, the real options the boys had available. And then somebody who really doesn't really understand the risk of the situation will probably say, well, those boys could have negotiated their way out or broke their way out of the situation, which is not really, I mean, it's technically possible. And I mean, technically, what I mean is technically is there's technically a chance, but the chance is so minuscule. It's effectively a non-option, and those idealists will ignore the fact that there's a non-option just to condemn the people for doing the action that they took. So, yeah, it's like, and it's a lot of this. I mean, you see a lot of this in politics because sometimes there's no pretty option. It's just like we'll just take like the border for example. If you can't let everybody in, you have to say no at some point. No matter at what point you say no, it's going to hurt some women, children, and innocent people who probably are not. I mean, who don't deserve a bad life. It's just the way it is. It's just like if you had like a bunker. If you had a bunker and you're going to have a limited amount of resources. So you can only let a limited amount of people into your bunker. If you let too many people into your bunker, everybody dies. So you only have to let a minimum amount of people. Then the other people are just. It's not like you want them to die, but sometimes it's just there's sometimes hard decisions have to be made. Some people just don't understand this. Sometimes some people just don't understand it, and they appeal to the ideal when the ideal is not realistically attainable. I mean, it's technically. I mean, you can say technically there's a chance, but it's not realistically a chance. Um, it's like betting. It's like trying to win the lottery 7 times in a row kind of chances. It's not really a reasonable option. Even though it's technically possible, it's not the reason to be an option. I mean, when I say technically possible, I mean there's just a you can argue there's a chance, even if it's 1 in 10 to the 50th power. But yeah, this is just something about moral calculation people just oftentimes tend to ignore. Um, and this is really the last one I'm gonna get into, and I'm gonna talk about more moral issues um, a little bit later. What's coming up, I might talk about the cosmic skeptic. Um, well, I'm gonna just talk about cosmic skeptic. Got into it with William Lane Craig about the whole Bible and the whole wiping out certain nations, and I'm gonna just attack that from a little different angle. But anyways, that's all I really have to say. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. Peace.